Good morning. Can't find the clicker. Always, never can find the clicker. I'll just give you a cue when to change the slides, but it's a beautiful day, and I'm so glad that everybody was able to make it out today. I got a good crowd. I know we're here, and we're excited to worship the Lord, and hopefully you'll join me in a study of His Word so we can learn and grow together. Today we're talking about, I'm going to tell you who you need to vote for. I'm just kidding. It got really quiet right there. I'm only kidding, I know that's a big deal coming up, and just pray for that we elect the person that will lead the country in the direction that God would have it. So the title of my lesson this morning is Hungry for More, Satisfied with Less. Coming from Matthew chapter 5 and verse 6. It's called a worship verse. Matthew chapter 5 and verse 6. Are you hungry for more righteousness? Okay, are you satisfied with less? Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added to you. Okay? Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. So I'm taking Matthew chapter 5 and verse 6, and you look at the hunger he says we should have for righteousness, we will be satisfied. If we hunger and thirst for righteousness, we will be satisfied. You see, I think in today's time, we have a lot of people who are hungry for the wrong things. I know y'all are hungry right now. You're saying, speed it up. It says 12:06. It kind of got me scared for a second. I guess it's 11:06 really. Speed it up. We got to get to El Patron. I know you're saying, you're making me hungry with this. But I think we're hungry for the wrong things a lot of times, especially people of this world, but it can even trickle into people in the church being hungry for the wrong things and satisfied with less important things. So I want us to look at modern day examples today, and then I want us to flip it around and see which one would you say that represents the way that you live your life. And so the first one that comes up, the world seems to be hungry for more possessions, but satisfied with less God. Would you agree with that statement? The world is hungry for more possessions, hungry for more stuff, for more money, for more power, and satisfied with less God. And I think as Christians, we're supposed to be the opposite. If you'll flip the slide, Christians should be hungry for more God and satisfied with less possession. You see, 1 Timothy chapter 6 and verse 10 says, the love of money is the root of all evil, the root of all kinds of evil. So what this should tell us is the more we prioritize making money and getting possessions, the closer we are growing to Satan. The more we deprioritize that and prioritize God, we are growing closer to God. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't be out here supporting our families. There's passages of Scripture that tell us that we're responsible for supporting our family. But the gist is this, that if we're prioritizing our possessions first and we're consumed with possessions, we're going to draw closer to evil. And you can see that in a lot of people's lives. You know, in context, you think about the election and some of these politicians, some of these career-long politicians, right? They have prioritized power. They have prioritized money. Therefore, they are drawing closer to evil things because that's their priority. As Christians, that's not our priority. Our priority is striving to be godly. Now, sometimes we can see someone coming to church on Sunday morning and seem like a good person. They smile, they're friendly, they open the door, they come to church when they're supposed to come, but God just isn't their number one priority. Do you know anybody like that? Where they're Sunday morning people and they come to church, but you just know, you can see, and you can see that their number one priority isn't the Lord. That can be us, I think, too, at times. Maybe not necessarily bad folks. Maybe people who do some good things, but the priority is in the wrong spot. They prioritize money and possessions. It doesn't matter if it's just a little bit. If your priority and your goal to get more money and possessions outweighs your goal for godliness, okay, you will always tilt in the direction of Satan, even if it's just slightly. See, Christ didn't die for a piece of you or a part of you or a percent of you. He died for every bit of you, and He wants you in every aspect of His life. And so when we prioritize worldly things like possessions, are we giving Him the entirety of our lives? I want us to look at this example in Genesis chapter 13. If you'll flip over there with me real quick. Genesis chapter 13, we're going to be in verse 2 through 6, and then we're going to go to 8 through 13. I've been doing this Bible reading in a year, and a friend sent it to me, and you read a part of Genesis, a few chapters in Genesis, and then a Psalm or a Proverbs, and then you go to the New Testament and read a chapter. And it kind of spreads it out, and it's easier to stay on track because, you know, you're not getting to some of these books that have long, you know, genealogies and stuff. So I've been reading a lot in Genesis, and I've been fascinated with the story of Abraham and Lot, and those two characters that are somewhat similar and somewhat contrasting. And I want us to take a look at Lot's priority. So in Genesis chapter 13, verse 2 through 6, it says, Abram was very rich in livestock, in silver and in gold. And he went on his journey from the south as far as Bethel, to the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Bethel and Ai, to the place of the altar which he had made there at first. And there Abram called on the name of the Lord. Verse 5, and Lot also, who went with Abram, had flocks and herds and tents. Now the land was not able to support them, that they might dwell together, for their possessions were so great that they could not dwell together. So Abram, a rich guy, lots of possessions, lots of livestock and flocks. He has this relative named Lot, and he also is rich and has lots of possessions and lots of livestock and flocks. And they're getting so big that they can't share the same piece of property. And then if you keep reading, you see there's some tension between Lot's herdsmen and Abram's herdsmen. And so Abraham comes to the conclusion, look, it's time for us to split. Verse 8, Abram said to Lot, please let there be no strife between me and you, and between my herdsmen and your herdsmen, for we are brethren. Is not the whole land before you? Please separate from me. If you take the left, then I will go to the right. Or if you go to the right, then I will go to the left. And Lot lifted up his eyes and saw all the plain of Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere, before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. Like the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt, as you saw towards, or as you go towards Zoar. Then Lot chose for himself all the plain of Jordan. And Lot journeyed east, and they separated from each other. Abram dwelt in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelt in the cities of the plain, and pitched his tent. And this is the key part right here, guys. Even as far as Sodom. Verse 13. But the men of Sodom were exceedingly wicked and sinful against the Lord. When you read about Lot, it's not like he was this inherently evil guy that had evil plans for him and his life. He was a pretty good guy, but he saw what was good, what he desired. And he took the land, even though it was closer to Sodom and Gomorrah, he took that land because he knew it was well watered, it was better. He didn't think about the repercussions of being that close to such a sinful city. And as we read, he kept drifting closer and closer to Sodom. He kept pitching his tent closer to Sodom. And you keep reading, we see how it turns out. He puts his family in a really bad situation, right? Where the angels of the Lord come to Sodom, and his family is kind of surrounded, and the angels are kind of surrounded by the people of Sodom. And the men of Sodom are trying to do terrible things to the angel of the Lord. And Lot basically has to flee out of Sodom. The Lord says, look, don't turn around. You, your family, y'all get out of Sodom and you don't turn around. And we know the story. Lot turns around and she turned into a pillar of salt. Some of y'all have the little salt shakers now with a woman who's looking behind. So you know it's the salt. So he lost his wife because he put him in a bad situation. You keep reading in Genesis. He becomes a drunk. He sins with his daughters, commits sins with his daughters, right? He destroys his life because he prioritized possessions over prioritizing godliness. And you see the contrasting outcome with Abraham. He said, you know what, I want us to be reconciled. I don't want any tension between us. So you can take the good land, I'll take whatever land you want. Abraham prioritized faithfulness and godliness, and we see how he is rewarded. How through his lineage came the nation that Jesus came through. When we prioritize our possessions and we're satisfied with less God, that's when we get in real trouble. So the question I ask is, are you hungry for possessions or are you hungry for God? That's a question that you have to ask yourself. And maybe it's time for a reality check for you. What are you prioritizing? If you'll click the next slide. Second thing I want us to look at, are you hungry for more comfortability and satisfied with less evangelism? Or, if you'll flip the slide, are you hungry for more evangelism and satisfied with less comfortability? If you'll flip that, well, actually, yeah, go back. Yeah, we're not there yet. We're not there. How many of y'all married couples in here? How many of y'all y'all have a relaxer in your family and you have a goer and a doer in your family? Or I mean, a husband and wife. One spouse is this way. You can probably guess I'm the relaxer, okay, in my family, and my wife is the goer and the doer. Okay, she is a goer and a doer. You can hit the next slide if you want to. The next one. If you can't read this, I thought this was so true. Scientists have found that women experience the highest level of stress when their husbands are on the couch doing nothing. I didn't get many laughs, so you're afraid to get in trouble. I'm not, but I probably will get in trouble, right? Anybody, you're laying on the couch, and it just makes your wife so mad. Because I'm that way. I'm a relaxer. I like to be comfortable, even if the house is a mess, even if, I got lots of chores to do. I'm a relaxer. I remember it was a big day. It was Gray's second birthday party. And we had been working probably since 6 a.m. to get all the Barney decorations up and all the balloons blowed up and, all the tables shined and, going underneath the house and, dusting underneath the patio. You had to get everything for the birthday party because people are going to go look under the patio. You know what I'm talking about? And so we're doing everything from 6 in the morning. And so I recorded myself. I said, I'm going to do something. I'm going to do the most dangerous thing I've done in my entire life. Okay, and so it was about an hour before the party, and I went and I sat in my lazy boy, and I plopped down, and I said, just give it a few seconds. Before I know it, what are you doing? Get up! The party is in an hour. Get up and do something. And so, you got those two contrasting individuals a lot of times in a marriage. You got the doer and sometimes you got the relaxer. Well, to the fault of mine, sometimes I relax too much and I'm not doing enough. I think that's kind of, if you'll flip the next slide, I think that's kind of the way that we are with evangelism. We're satisfied with just kind of sitting back and being comfortable in where we are. We got our jobs in our houses and we got warm food on the table and we got these American comforts. And so we're not really focused on going out and evangelizing or spreading the gospel because we're comfortable. I heard a quote one time from a guy that was in Haiti. If you don't know where Haiti's at, it's near the Dominican Republic, but parts of Haiti were considered some of the poorest areas in the Western Hemisphere. So this country is poor, and this young man made the statement, why are the Haitian Christians so much more committed and dedicated than the American Christians? And he replied, because Americans already have heaven. We don't. We're looking forward to heaven. And although that statement is not true, it does bring about some interesting thoughts. It's very thought-provoking because can we get so comfortable with our lives, with our creature comforts, that we begin to sit back and not evangelize or not try to grow God's kingdom? That's very scary. You think about in Matthew chapter 28, when Jesus told the apostles, he said, you go out into all the world and you baptize and you make disciples in all the nations. When he said that in Matthew chapter 28, can you imagine if his apostles just said, not going to do it. I'm not going. Can you imagine the ramifications where we would be at right now? You would have no hope. I would have no hope. Our children would have no hope if those apostles didn't go. If someone didn't go. You see, when you look at this verse in 3 John chapter 1, verse 4, it says, I have no greater joy than to hear that my children are walking in the truth. A lot of y'all, this verse is true. You've raised faithful children that are here, that are faithful Christians in other congregations, and they're walking in the truth. Is there any greater joy, parents, than to know that your kids are walking in the truth? Absolutely not. And one day, I hope that I raise my boys in a manner where I can say that this verse is true. You know, if those apostles hadn't gone out, spread the gospel, it wouldn't have trickled down to 2024, or we wouldn't have the gospel, or your children may not have the gospel. And can you think of a scarier thought? If you click the next slide. I have no greater horror than to know that my children are not walking in truth. I think about that a lot. Is there there's no greater joy than your children walking in the truth, but is there any greater horror that comes to your mind than your children not walking in the truth? Well, guess what? We're not the only humans here. There are people across the world that don't know Christ, and their children don't know Christ, and it's because we have gotten comfortable. We've gotten comfortable with our American lives and our American lifestyle. Don't be like me. Don't sit back in the lazy boy. Be satisfied with our comfortability. Go out and evangelize. So the question I ask now is, if you'll flip the slide, are you hungry for more? Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Go back. I guess I messed that one up. Are you hungry for more evangelism and satisfied with less comfort? Or are you still hungry for more comfort, satisfied with less evangelism? You can flip the next slide. And then finally, question that we can ask ourselves is, the world is hungry for more my truth and satisfied with less the truth. Okay? Or as Christians, if you'll flip the slide, are you hungry for more the truth and satisfied with less my truth? I know I've preached about it before. Lots of preachers today are preaching about this my truth movement that's going across not just our nation, but everywhere. Everybody has their own truth. Therefore, you can do whatever you want if it's within the realm of your truth. Therefore, you have no responsibility, no accountability. You get to become your own God. Okay? That's the movement that is being pushed on our society today, that my truth movement. Well, we know that's just not the case. I want us to go to Matthew chapter 5. You know, I get up here and I speak as if I have mastered this, as if I live by the truth and not my truth. But I think we all struggle with living our own truth sometimes instead of the truth. We buy into a false reality of our own selves and our own spirituality. When you read Matthew chapter 5, how do you read it? Matthew chapter 5, verse 21 through 24. Here's what it says about anger. It says, you have heard that it was said to those of old, you shall not murder, and whoever murders will be in danger of the judgment. But I say to you that whoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment. And whoever says to his brother, Rakah, shall be in danger of the council. But whoever says, you fool, shall be in danger of hellfire. Therefore, if you bring your gift to the altar, and there remember that your brother has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar and go your way. First be reconciled to your brother, and then come and offer your gift. That passage teaches us about anger, teaches us about reconciliation. But a lot of times, that's how we read it, but is that how we apply it to our lives? Or if it was really applied to the way that we live our lives, would it be more like this? Don't be angry with your brother, but if I just don't really like the person, and they get on my nerves sometimes, and they've done some little things in the past, that's okay to be angry, right? Or, yeah, I know it says I'm supposed to immediately reconcile with my brother, but I don't want to do that. I'm mad at them. So I'm going to let it sizzle a little bit, and you know what? If they want to reconcile, they can come and talk to me. I'll tell you what that is. That's the my truth version of the Bible and not the truth of the Bible. You keep reading. Verse 27 and 28. You have heard that it was said to those, you shall not commit adultery. But I say to you that whoever looks at a woman to lust after her has already committed adultery with her in his heart. That's the truth. What about the my truth version? Does it read more like this? Whoever looks at a woman to lust after her. It's okay if you're watching some movies that have nude scenes or have sexual content. That's okay if you just kind of glance and you kind of get this. That's okay because we live in 2024 and it's okay. Or if something pops up on your phone, it's not your fault it popped up on your phone and that you lusted. Now that is my truth and not the truth. We have to stop living my truth and start living the truth. Let's keep going. Verse 31 and 32. Furthermore has been said, whoever divorces his wife, let him give her a certificate of divorce. But I say to you that whoever divorces his wife for any reason except for sexual immorality causes her to commit adultery, and whoever marries a woman who is divorced commits adultery. That's the truth. But the my truth version a lot of times is, it's best for both parties for us to divorce. We just can't agree. And, I think I could be happier with somebody else. And she's fine, I'm fine. We're both going to get remarried and we're going to start new families. And then we'll start serving Christ. Everything's going to be fine. Is that the truth or is that your truth? You keep reading verse 38 through 34. You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I tell you not to resist an evil person. Whoever slaps you on the right cheek, turn to him the other also. If anyone would sue you, take away your tunic. Let him have your cloak also. And whoever compels you to go 1 mile, go with him 2 miles. A lot of times we read this. Whoever slaps you on the right cheek, you better slap him back if you're a man. Because if you don't hit him back, you're not a man. You're a coward. I believed that growing up. Somebody hits me, you can hit them back. That's my truth. That's not the truth. Verse 43 through 48. You have heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy, but I say to you, love your enemies, bless those who curse you, do good to those who hate you, and pray for those who spitefully use you, persecute you, that you may be sons of your Father in heaven. For he makes the sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sends rain on the just and the unjust. For if you love those who love you, what reward do you have? Don't even the tax collectors do the same? And if you greet your brethren also, what do you do more than others? Do even the tax collectors do so? Therefore you shall be perfect, just as your Father in heaven is perfect. That's the truth. Sometimes our truth is, I say to you, love your enemies, unless it's somebody who has just really, really hurt you. Unless it's the other political party, then you can hate your enemy. That's my truth, not the truth. And I'm not defending one party or the other, and I'm certainly not for abortion, LGBTQ+. I'm not for all that stuff. I'm absolutely not for that. But I'm saying when it drives us to hate a group of people, that's my truth, and that's not the truth. Forgiveness. Let's go to chapter 7 now, Matthew chapter 7, verse 14 through 15. I'm sorry, chapter 6. Chapter 6, 14 through 15. If you forgive men their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if you do not forgive men their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive your trespasses. A lot of times we read that, and our version is, I'll forgive someone. as long as they haven't hurt me too deeply. Or I'll forgive someone, but I'll never forget. Or I'll forgive most people, but there's that one person, I'm done with that person, I will never forgive them. And then on judgment, you're going to expect the Father to forgive you as you stabbed him in the back hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times again and expect forgiveness? No, that's your version. That's not the version. You read about worry in chapter 7. I'm going to hurry up because the Bible tells us to not be anxious about anything, to not worry. That's the version. A lot of times our version is, well, if it's something really important at work, I can worry about it. Or, if I'm really having financial stress, I can allow worry and anxiety to kind of take over my life. That's not the truth. That's your truth. Chapter 7, 1 through 5. We're going to read this and then we'll kind of wrap up. Judge not that you be not judged, for with the judgment you judge, you will be judged. And with the same measure you use, it will be measured back to you. Why do you look at the speck in your brother's eye, but do not consider the plank in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, let me remove the speck out of your eye, and look, a plank is in your own eye? Hypocrite, first remove the plank from your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck out of your brother's eye. That's the truth. What does our truth look like? I'm not going to judge someone unless it's really blatant. If it's really public, then we'll let the gossip begin. And we'll judge in our little gossip groups. And that'll be okay because, I'm not openly, judging them out to their face. No, that's your truth. That's not the truth. We have to be careful. And when we read the Scripture, and if the truth doesn't match up to our truth, then we need to throw our truth out the window and focus on the truth. So the final question, if you'll flip another one. Well, go back, sorry. I have 2 under 2. Go back one more, please. Are you hungry for the truth, or are you satisfied with your truth? Going back around, and if you'll flip the next slide, going back to Matthew chapter 5, verse 6 says, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. Are you hungry after righteousness? As hungry as you are right now to get to lunch and for me to be quiet, are you hungry and thirsty for righteousness? Or are you satisfied with living your own truth and your own comforts and your own possessions? What satisfies you? What are you hungry? What are you after? Maybe it's the case today that after Bible class and the lesson and the singing and being in church, you've realized that I need to commit my life to Christ. And I need to be hungry for Him and not for anything else. Maybe it's the case that you've wandered off the path and you want to rededicate your life to Christ. Maybe it's the case that finally you are here and you are ready to take that step to become a Christian and be baptized, raised to walk in newness of life. Please come forward. Life is too short, too fragile for you to wait another church service, for you to wait another month. Life's too fragile. Come forward right now as we stand, as we sing.